Greetings, everyone. Today we'll journey through the remarkable and turbulent life of Marie-José, the last queen of Italy. Her story is far more than that of a woman born into luxury. It's the tale of a strong-willed individual who confronted fascism, stood by her beliefs, and strove to bring hope to a land in turmoil. I invite you to listen closely and discover how this courageous queen left an indelible mark on history. Marie-José was born on August 4, 1906, during a time when royal families across Europe often interwove through intricate marriages and political alliances. Her father, King Albert I of Belgium, was celebrated for his bravery, particularly for his leadership during World War I. Her mother, Queen Elizabeth, hailed from the Bavarian royal line and was related to Empress Elizabeth of Austria. This blend of Belgian resilience and Bavarian heritage made Marie-José's background especially distinctive. She had two elder brothers, which instilled in her both a sense of friendly rivalry and a deep affection for her kin. From a young age, she experienced a world where politics and diplomacy walked hand in hand with royal ceremony. Although her family was admired by the Belgian people, they also faced immense pressure, as Belgium itself was geographically vulnerable, surrounded by powerful nations, often at odds with one another. Observing her father grapple with weighty decisions, and hearing her mother emphasize that a sovereign's duty went beyond pageantry, Marie-José quickly understood that every gesture or statement by royalty could reverberate throughout Europe. Though she was a princess, she was never merely a passive ornament at glamorous balls. Her parents instilled in her a conviction that a crown was not just an adornment, but a responsibility. Queen Elizabeth, with her passion for art and music, also enriched Marie-José's cultural sensitivity. Hence, by the time she was a young girl, Marie-José had grown to appreciate not only the grandeur of court life, but also the seriousness of political power. She had a front-row seat to the fragility of diplomatic ties, where today's ally could become tomorrow's foe. Still, within the gilded confines of palace life, she found room to develop an independent mind. From an early age, she understood that although she was wrapped in regal splendor, her every action, large or small, could bear significant weight. Indeed, the political climate around her was anything but stable. Nevertheless, her upbringing taught her that a true leader should serve the people, not merely bask in formalities. As Belgium stood on the cusp of significant challenges, especially when World War I threatened Europe, Marie-José's perspective on monarchy and service began to form. Little did she know that those early lessons in courage and obligation would serve her well, guiding her through some of the most harrowing episodes in modern European history. And so, with these seeds of honor and empathy planted in her heart, Marie-José stepped onto the path that would one day lead her to Italy. During her childhood, Marie-José was far from a princess absorbed solely in lavish gowns or gilded corridors. She was a bright, curious child with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. Even before age 10, tutors noted her attention to detail and willingness to engage deeply with any subject. Music, in particular, captivated her. Under the mentorship of the renowned violinist Eugène Ysaÿe, dubbed the King of the Violin, she discovered that music was both an avenue of creative expression and a discipline that demanded patience, precision, and fortitude. However, her early life took an abrupt turn when World War I erupted. Belgium found itself on the front lines, facing an aggressive German invasion. To protect Marie-José from imminent danger, her parents sent her to England, where she enrolled at Brentwood Ursuline Convent High School in Essex. This boarding school exposed her to peers from various walks of life, a stark contrast to the opulence she was used to back home. In that new environment, she learned adaptability and gained a broader perspective on human resilience. She began to realize that empathy could bridge social differences, even those that separated a princess from her more ordinary classmates. When the war ended, she eventually returned home, but continued her education in Florence, Italy, at the College of the Santissima Annunziata. This move, orchestrated by her parents, served dual purposes. On the surface, it furthered her cultural and academic pursuits, but deeper down, it prepared her for the possibility of a future aligned with the Italian monarchy. At the time, marriage alliances were still highly valued, and Marie-José was regarded as a prime candidate for a politically significant union. Life in Florence immersed her in Italian language, customs, and heritage. Beyond the city's artistic treasures, towering cathedrals, frescoes, and museums, she encountered an Italy restless with social and political changes. This environment taught her to juggle personal inclinations with emerging obligations. Friendships with classmates from various Italian regions showed her that personal bonds could transcend class barriers, and her intelligence became a shield against political maneuvering. Over the years, every new subject she mastered, every custom she absorbed, became stepping stones for the major challenges looming ahead. Indeed, the seeds of her independent thinking took further root, solidifying her resolve to shape her own path, even in a world that often tried to dictate the destiny of royal women. By the early 1920s, rumors of Marie-José's prospective marriage circulated among European courts. People spoke admiringly of her grace, intellect, and musical talent. Yet, what stood out more, politically, was that she was a valuable royal figure for cementing alliances. Europe was still recovering from World War I and looking to avoid another catastrophic conflict. In such a setting, a marriage alliance between the Belgian and Italian royal families seemed particularly appealing. Crown Prince Umberto of Italy emerged as a probable match. As heir to the recently unified Italian throne, he bore the hopes of a country wrestling with deep social and political fault lines. Marie-José's family cautiously welcomed the possibility of linking the Belgian monarchy with the House of Savoy. Italy, a nation famed for its cultural riches, also possessed a monarchy that was, at least superficially, open to modernization. Marie-José herself felt a mixture of curiosity and unease. She had enjoyed the freedom of studying abroad, absorbing new ideas, and wondering whether a formal, tradition-bound royal life was truly her destiny. Still, political pressures weighed heavily. In 1924, at age 18, she was invited to her first grand royal ball, a symbolic moment that introduced her to the glittering world of Italian high society. Wearing a tiara once owned by Stéphanie de Beauharnais, she walked into an opulent ballroom where every gaze seemed to carry the silent question, "Is she the future queen of Italy?" Those glamorous surroundings revealed the subtler forces of European diplomacy. While the music soared and guests exchanged pleasantries, Marie-José felt the invisible threads linking her presence to the swirl of potential alliances and negotiations. At that moment, she realized that marrying into the Italian royal house might not only be a personal decision, but a political milestone that could strengthen ties between two nations. Still, the young princess privately wondered whether she could embrace a life so deeply tied to protocol and public visibility. Unbeknownst to the onlookers, that evening's graceful dances foreshadowed the courage she would later show in standing up to fascist power, a battle few could predict amid the glittering spectacle. On January 8, 1930, the much-anticipated wedding ceremony took place at the Quirinal Palace in Rome, a venue steeped in centuries of Italian royal history. Expectations were high. Guests envisioned a flawless union between the Belgian princess and the Italian crown prince. The palace itself sparkled with lavish decorations, ornate walls, and magnificent halls. Yet, behind this splendor, trouble was brewing. In an unusual twist, Crown Prince Umberto had personally contributed to designing Marie-José's wedding gown. On the morning of the ceremony, he insisted on inspecting the dress beforehand and discovered that the sleeves differed from his original design. Enraged, he tore them off with little regard for the chaos this might cause. Marie-José, typically poised, was left with a torn dress mere hours before the procession. Hastily, she resorted to wearing long white gloves to hide the damage. To the assembled guests, it might have seemed like a trivial mishap. But for Marie-José, it signaled deeper conflicts awaiting them in marriage, especially concerning control and personal autonomy. Even before the wedding, she had sensed Umberto's rigid sense of authority. Over time, these differences only grew, fed by their contrasting personalities. She valued open-mindedness. He, raised to be a future king, saw himself as an indisputable figure of power. Outside palace walls, Italy was undergoing dramatic changes. As the 1930s advanced, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime loomed larger, transforming the nation's political landscape. Marie-José, having entered the marriage with her own hopes and ideas, now found herself bound to a family and a crown, seemingly willing to turn a blind eye to Mussolini's intentions. The chaotic events of her wedding day were soon overshadowed by the greater turmoil enveloping the country. The newlywed princess would discover that the real test of her courage lay not in fitting into the pageantry of royal life, but in deciding how far she was willing to go to defend her ideals. For most royal couples, the early years of marriage are a time to relish in celebration and adoration. But for Marie-José, such personal joys were overshadowed by the dark reality of Mussolini's growing grip on Italy. King Victor Emmanuel III, her father-in-law, was unwilling to confront the threat of fascism, choosing instead to appease Mussolini. Marie-José found this acquiescence distressing, as she clearly grasped how dangerous a totalitarian system could become. Early on, she signaled her independent streak. During the wedding ceremony, Mussolini suggested she adopt an Italianized name, Maria Giuseppina, for the official registry. She refused, signing Marie-José instead. To the outside world, it might have seemed a small act, but in the charged climate of the time, it was an unmistakable message. She would not abandon her identity or bend to Mussolini's dictates. As the late 1930s gave way to World War II, Marie-José's unease hardened into outright defiance. She began holding clandestine meetings with intellectuals who opposed Mussolini, channeling financial support, and even smuggling weaponry to various resistance groups. Her unique position as a Belgian-born royal consort to Italy allowed her access to social circles that most anti-fascist insurgents would have found difficult to penetrate. She worked quietly, careful to evade Mussolini's surveillance network. Her father-in-law's complacency only strengthened her resolve. Determined to transcend the monarchy's limitations, she even tried securing an audience with Pope Pius XII, aiming to negotiate peace proposals with the Allied powers. It was a bold move, one that could easily be seen as insubordination, or worse, treason. But Marie-José believed that the monarchy could not stand idly by while Mussolini's atrocities grew. With each covert action, she proved she was no mere ornamental figurehead. The more fascism tightened its grip on Italy, the more she felt compelled to risk her standing, and even her safety, to safeguard the country's future. As Europe descended further into war, the danger surrounding the House of Savoy intensified. Italy's alliance with Nazi Germany brought Adolf Hitler's influence alarmingly close. Marie-José's connection to these events became profoundly personal when Hitler's forces invaded Belgium, her homeland. Outraged and pained, she orchestrated an extraordinary meeting with the Führer, an audacious step for any European royal. let alone a young princess known for her fierce loyalty to Belgium. During their chilling encounter, she implored Hitler to show mercy to the Belgians, including her imprisoned brother, King Leopold III. He dismissed her pleas outright. Yet, in a bizarre turn, he made a comment about her eyes resembling the German sky. For Marie-José, this remark only magnified her revulsion. In later interviews, she admitted that, had she been armed, she might have considered taking drastic action. Such a confession reveals her powerful anger at seeing her homeland under Nazi control. Though her direct appeal failed to secure compassionate treatment for Belgium, the meeting galvanized her commitment to the anti-fascist cause. If anything, it solidified her view that Hitler and Mussolini represented a catastrophic threat to Europe's future. Her willingness to confront Hitler face-to-face also bolstered her credibility among resistance circles, both within Italy and beyond. Many recognized her as a rare kind of ally, a royal figure who refused to stay silent in the face of tyranny. No longer could anyone doubt that she was prepared to challenge dangerous dictators, even if it meant risking her own life or the status of the House of Savoy. By 1943, Mussolini's regime was collapsing after a string of military defeats. Italian dissatisfaction with the monarchy, which had collaborated with or at least tolerated the fascist government, surged. Calls for a republic grew louder, echoing a societal longing for a fresh start. King Victor Emmanuel III, widely criticized for enabling Mussolini, tried to salvage the monarchy's reputation by abdicating in favor of his son, Umberto, and daughter-in-law, Marie-José. Thus, on May 9, 1946, Marie-José and Umberto ascended as Queen and King of Italy. However, their brief tenure was overshadowed by an upcoming referendum to decide whether to maintain the monarchy or establish a republic. Anxiety spread from urban centers to remote rural communities. It seemed that all of Italy sensed a pivotal moment at hand. Despite her strong anti-fascist stance and her more humane approach to governance, Marie-José faced a national weariness born of decades under dictatorial rule and 2 world wars. On June 2, 1946, less than a month after she became queen, the referendum's results confirmed that Italy would become a republic. The House of Savoy was stripped of its power. Maria-José and Umberto's reign, lasting only 35 days, earned her the epithet the May Queen. Such a brief monarchy might seem inconsequential, but it left a symbolic imprint on Italian history. In those few weeks, Marie-José tried to model a more open and empathetic style of royal leadership. Yet the momentum for change proved overwhelming. The public, weary of authoritarian leaders and emboldened by new political ideals, viewed the monarchy as an outdated institution. Italy's path was set, and Marie-José would forever be remembered as the monarch who saw the nation shift from a royal domain to a republic in a matter of days. Right after the referendum, the new Italian Republic exiled the Savoy family from their homeland. Marie-José and King Umberto II left Italy, which they had ruled for barely over a month, and sought refuge in Portugal. Initially, they hoped that the distance might allow them to reset their personal lives away from the intense scrutiny that had surrounded them. However, the strain of recent events, coupled with existing marital tensions, became unavoidable. Before long, the couple chose to separate. As devout Catholics, they declined to divorce formally, but maintained an emotional distance that testified to their divergent outlooks. Marie-José relocated to Switzerland with her children, aiming to give them a stable environment. Adapting to life abroad was no simple task. Once enveloped by royal protocol and staff, she now had to manage her household more directly, mindful that her resources were limited. She taught her children that their titles could not shield them forever. They needed to understand real-world responsibilities and find a sense of purpose. Meanwhile, Umberto remained in Portugal, gradually receding from the public eye. The family reunited only on certain formal occasions or in times of personal crisis. Yet, Marie-José carried the weight of preserving the Savoy name. She ensured her children knew their ancestry, understood how the monarchy rose and fell, and recognized the importance of forging identities beyond mere lineage. Ironically, the princess who once studied the complexities of power and wondered about its moral implications now found herself stripped of her throne. Nevertheless, her conviction did not falter. Living in exile taught her new lessons about fortitude and leadership. With fewer constraints imposed by ceremonial obligations, she began to explore who she was beyond the regal image. Her posture as a queen in exile revealed an unshakable core. Even devoid of a palace, she retained her moral compass and a drive to serve a greater good. In Switzerland, far from the formalities of court life, Marie-José found more time to indulge her deep-rooted love of the arts. Her childhood under Eugène Ysaye's guidance had already instilled in her a belief that music transcends social barriers and brings solace in times of turmoil. Now, free from the day-to-day obligations of a royal court, she pursued this passion with renewed energy. Keen to pass on her enthusiasm, she founded the Fondation du Prix de Composition Reine Marie-José, a musical foundation aimed at supporting young composers and encouraging the creation of new works. Through grants, competitions, and concerts, the foundation championed contemporary music. This initiative echoed her conviction that culture could blossom even in the aftermath of conflict and political strife, offering a window into human creativity and empathy. In addition to her work in music, she immersed herself in writing. Marie-José penned books that offered candid insights into her own experiences and the House of Savoy's tumultuous history. Far from blindly glorifying the monarchy, her narratives acknowledged its political entanglements and missteps, painting a balanced view of a once powerful institution. Such honesty was noteworthy and garnered the interest of historians and academics, ultimately earning her recognition, such as the French Legion of Honor. Beyond these endeavors, she also participated in philanthropic activities and eagerly conversed with people who showed interest in her artistic vision. Instead of presenting herself as a distant monarch, she projected warmth and a willingness to share her expertise, particularly with aspiring musicians and scholars. By doing so, she dismantled preconceived notions about aristocratic aloofness, revealing a generous spirit drawn to nurturing young talent. For Marie-José, the arts were more than a personal refuge. They formed the cornerstone of a new legacy. If politics once curtailed her ability to fully express herself, art now let her serve causes she believed in, promoting freedom of thought, creativity, and cultural enrichment. Rather than fading from memory after her exile, she reinvented herself as a patron of the arts. In her quiet but determined way, she ensured that her name would resonate with advocacy for beauty, education, and intellectual depth far beyond the corridors of any palace. In the post-World War II decades, as Europe rebuilt, Marie-José faced waves of personal loss and glimpses of reconciliation. The year 1983 proved particularly heartbreaking. In January, King Umberto II, her estranged husband, died in Portugal. Though they had lived apart for years, his passing represented a definitive end to the Savoy reign. That same year, she lost two older brothers, Prince Charles, Count of Flanders, and King Leopold III of Belgium. 3 deaths in quick succession underscored a humbling truth. No amount of royal status can shield one from the universal realities of grief and mortality. Despite her sorrow, she found some comfort in Italy's gradually softening attitude toward the exiled Savoy family. At times, she was allowed to visit the country, where she had once served so briefly as queen. For many Italians, seeing her revisit old sites evoked memories of a tumultuous historical chapter, one that had ended with a swift referendum. Yet some welcomed her warmly, recalling how she had opposed fascism and tried to guide the monarchy toward a more inclusive approach. Time and distance seemed to have mellowed public resentment, and her personal efforts against Mussolini resonated in a nation learning to navigate democracy anew. By the mid-1990s, Marie-José spent several years in Mexico with her daughter, Princess Maria Beatriz, and grandchildren. Embracing her role as a grandmother, she shared stories of Europe, the monarchy, and music with her younger relatives. Eventually, she returned to Switzerland in 1996, though her advancing years brought increasing frailty. On January 27, 2001, she died in Geneva at the age of 94. Many in Italy and beyond mourned the loss of a woman who had shown grace under pressure, describing her as both compassionate and principled to the very end. Poignantly, 1 year after her death, her grandson, Emanuele Filiberto of Savoy, was finally permitted to set foot on Italian soil, ending a decades-long ban against Savoy descendants. For many observers, this event symbolized a belated acknowledgement of Marie-José's legacy. She had devoted her life to ideals that transcended mere titles. Ultimately, her memory lives on not only in the history books where she is called the May Queen, but also in the hearts of those who appreciate her courage, artistic dedication, and unyielding belief in freedom. She had worn a crown for just 35 days, yet her influence quietly echoes in the worlds of politics, culture, and the collective memory of a nation learning to stand on its own. Marie-José's journey reminds us all that true leadership stems from compassion, courage, and unshakable determination. She confronted Hitler, resisted Mussolini's tyranny, and, even when stripped of her throne, continued to shine through her patronage of the arts. If you found her story as enlightening and moving as I did, please like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Your support enables us to bring more fascinating historical tales to life. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to having you join me for the next story.